This time we're looking at how to make a perfect salad. First, a simple green salad for an English summer, then a white bean salad with tuna fish from Tuscany, and then finally a Thai beef salad with sesame seeds and grapes. Well, now before we actually get on to making any salads, we're going to start by making salad dressings and begin more specifically with the kind of ingredients you need to buy to make salad dressings. First of all, olive oil. Now when you go into a supermarket, you see a whole wall of olive oils and vinegars and you think, my goodness, where do I start? It must be very confusing if you're just beginning. So I want to try and help you narrow it down to the minimum amount you need, I think, to cook and make nice salad dressings. Well, first of all, there's extra virgin olive oil, and this is dark, sometimes green in colour. It's the first pressing from the olives and no heat is used. It's called cold pressed. Then there's the second pressing, which heat is used, and this is a cheaper olive oil and is sometimes blended with the first type. And this is what you need for sort of every day. I have what I call my best olive oil for best days and my everyday olive oil. This one here is ground nut oil, and that's very luscious and rich, but it doesn't have a lot of flavour of its own, so it would be a good oil to use if you're using a lot of flavourings in your dressing, like herbs or garlic. Now, if you're worried about using nut oil, a good alternative to that would be grapeseed oil. A little bit more expensive, but that's also good. This one here is called walnut oil, and that one is very good when you're using nuts in a salad and you want to get a sort of rich, nutty flavour. Buy it in small quantities though, because it doesn't have a long shelf life. Now this one next door is Oriental toasted sesame oil, and that has a really lovely, rich, luscious flavour, nutty flavour. So that's very good when you want to make Oriental salads. Now I would say you don't need anything else. You don't need flavoured oils, flavoured vinegars. All you need is that little group, I think, to start off with. Then we're going to move on to what I believe to be the most essential types of vinegars to have in your larder. Well, we're going to start with this one here, which is good old malt vinegar, which when I first started writing recipes really was all you could buy, and olive oil came from the chemist and was used for medicinal purposes. But now it's got to its rightful place. Nowhere near a salad. Never use malt vinegar near a salad. Very good for fish and chips, very good for herrings or something with a strong flavour, but never near a salad, it's too strong. What you need for a salad are wine vinegars, and I would urge you to get the best quality you can, because some of the cheaper ones are very, very acidic and you need lots more sort of olive oil to make them palatable. So a good quality red wine vinegar and a good quality white wine vinegar will make beautiful salad dressing. Then there's also this one here, which is cider vinegar. This is less expensive, very good for every day, but also better than those in some particular salad dressings. I think a good cider vinegar is a very, very essential ingredient. Then we've got two speciality vinegars. One is sherry vinegar, lovely and nutty and brown in flavour. And this one is balsamic vinegar. It's made by a very complicated process. It's aged in wooden casks of different types of wood and blended and aged. And some people, when they get a really good one, really like to drink it sort of on ice in a cocktail glass instead of putting it on a salad. But I like to use it on a salad dressing. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful ingredient. So there we are. I've counted just 9 bottles there, and that should be all you need to start off making really good salad dressings. So now let's make the salad dressing. First important piece of equipment for me is using one of these, which we've talked about before in the series, pestle and mortar. I mean, you can make salad dressings in blenders, but it seems a lot of bother for a small amount. This is much better. And there are no rules in salad dressings. Well, actually, there is one rule, and that is don't make it in advance. I think you should always make it fresh. It doesn't seem to taste so good if it's hung around for a long time. So I would always make the salad dressing just before I'm going to make the salad. But then there aren't any rules, because you get to know what you like and you use the flavourings you like and the amounts you like. So I'm just now going to give you guidelines. First of all, garlic. Well, 1 clove of garlic or half a clove of garlic. I'm going to use 1 today. And then a teaspoonful of sea salt. And you can just put that in with the garlic and crush it the same as we did earlier on in the series, breaking it up and then just crushing the salt and the garlic until you have a lovely creamy, smooth puree. The next ingredient is mustard, and I always like to use English mustard powder in my salad dressings, and I just use a teaspoonful, which also emulsifies it a bit and gives it a little bit of thickness to the dressing. And my husband makes better salad dressings than me, and I often wondered why, and he says, well, you've got to really work the mustard in. At this stage, you've got to work hard and get the mustard in. But I think it's one of the hazards of being a cook. When you're cooking quite a lot, it's amazing how somebody else makes something. It always tastes better than it does when you make it yourself. But anyway, I'm going to do what he says, and I'm going to work the mustard in. Now, you can use grain mustard, or you can use Dijon mustard if you prefer it, but I like the English mustard the best. And that's all clinging now, so I'm just going to take that off. And the next ingredient I'm going to use is vinegar. But before I put the vinegar in, let me just tell you that sometimes it's quite nice to use either a lime or a lemon in salad dressings instead of vinegar, no vinegar at all, because especially I think if you're serving a salad with fish, for instance, it's very nice to have a nice sharp lemony dressing. Now, my favourite at the moment, and it does change from time to time, but my favourite at the moment is a dessert spoonful of balsamic vinegar, and then that's followed by a dessert spoonful of sherry vinegar, and mixing these two together gives a very deep kind of flavour. So a dessert spoon of sherry vinegar next, and then I'm just going to work that in a little bit. And when we first got wine vinegar, they were quite sort of sharp and acidic, and I used to use 6 tablespoons of oil or 5, but now since the vinegar's become of such superb quality, what I now use is 4 tablespoons of olive oil, which I'm now going to get. And I've got my sort of best days olive oil here, the extra virgin cold pressing. But what you need to do is taste it, and the best way to taste it is to dip a salad leaf into the dressing. It's much better if you taste it on a leaf. And then just see how you like it. You might like more vinegar, you might like less oil. It's just really a very, very personal thing. Now I'm going to take the pestle out and just clean the bits off the end of it. And the final ingredient to go into the vinaigrette is pepper. And I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You might want less and you might want more. And then just give that a good final whisk until everything's thoroughly blended. And then when you actually dress the salad, give it another whisk last minute before it goes in. That's one way of blending it. And you can see now it's looking quite thick and ready to coat some lovely salad leaves. But there is another way, and that is you can pour it into a screw top jar like this and just give it a really, really good shake before it goes on to the salad. Well, that's the salad dressing, or one salad dressing. As I've told you, there are no rules. You can make up your own according to your own tastes. But how do we make the salad? Well, now, before you can make the perfect salad, you've got to choose the perfect salad leaves. Because just like the oils and vinegars we've been looking at, there's such a large range of salad leaves now, you can get completely bewildered and not know which ones you want. The first guideline I'd like to give you is, do you want to have designer looks, or do you want lots of texture and flavour? Well, I know which I want, and that's what I'm going to tell you about now. The latter, which has texture, flavour and holds the dressing properly. These are very old-fashioned leaves that have been around for a long time, not designer, but very, very good. This one here is called frisee, or sometimes it's called curly endive, and it's the one the French use with crispy bacon and croutons and lots of garlic in the dressing. Very good one. This is one of my most favourites. This is cos lettuce, and when you take a leaf off, you can kind of hear the crunch and feel it. What Cos lettuce does is it takes the dressing beautifully. The dressing doesn't make it sort of wilt and flop, it just holds it. Lots of flavour and lots of texture. This is also a good lettuce. This is very old-fashioned, the round English lettuce, but not to be despised because the heart of that lettuce also has lovely leaves, gentler than the Cos, but still taking the dressing and giving you texture and flavour as well. Then I've got some more leaves here that I think are very good. This one here is called lamb's lettuce, and this is curly and quite pretty too if you want looks. It's not a crisp leaf, but it does have nice texture and flavour and is very good. One of my top of the pops favourites is this one here. This is old-fashioned rocket that's been used in salads in this country since medieval times. A beautiful buttery green flavour, and again it takes all the dressing beautifully. And good old watercress, a good leaf in a salad. And when you're making a salad, it's better to have the large leaves than the tiny ones. Now you can buy mixed salad leaves in bags, but I've got to give you a word of warning here. If they're not the right leaves, if they're too designer, then what happens is, as soon as the dressing gets anywhere near them, they just wilt and collapse and they're no good at all and go soggy. But there are some good mixtures. The thing you need to look for is when you buy a bag of lettuce, of mixed leaves like this, you need to look very carefully to see how dry they are. How good they are will mean if they look really dry. If they look wet at all, don't buy them, because if they're damp, they won't take the dressing. So I'd just like to show you this one. This is the lamb's lettuce, which has little shreds of beetroot. So if you want colour, you can get it and still get a good salad. The little shreds of raw beetroot make that one look very pretty. It's good for a garnish. And this one here is mixed leaves. And these bags of lettuce come from France, and I find the French seem to have cracked the way of getting leaves into bags dry so that they take the dressing easily. And that's just a mixed leaf salad with about 4 different kinds of leaves in it. Well, once you've chosen the leaves you're going to use for your salad, how to prepare them, how to look after them. Well, when you're using lettuce, don't separate the leaves. Don't think, oh, I'll get ahead and separate the leaves out in the afternoon if you're going to serve them in the evening. Always separate them as late as possible, because whilst they're still sort of clinging together, they're staying fresher. Then I'm afraid I'm going to have to say that I don't wash lettuce. The commercially available lettuces now are never very dirty. If they are, what I do is take a damp piece of kitchen paper and I simply wipe any little bits of dust off the leaves, because once they're wet, they're not going to take the dressing, and it's very hard to dry them. If you're forced to wash them, then an old-fashioned salad basket that you sort of swing around outside is quite good for drying them, and then you can use a tea cloth. But try not to wash them, and don't write to me and tell me, you know, that I should wash my lettuces, because that's what happened to me before when I last said that on television. I had loads of lettuce. If you want to wash it, by all means, you wash it, but I think I'd rather have the dressing on it. So now, once you've got the leaves prepared, the next thing you do is put them into your bowl. And another tip here is never use a knife with a leaf, because that makes it wilt. So you break the leaves with your fingers. The rocket doesn't need breaking, that can go in whole. And these leaves here can go in whole. It's only the big ones, the very big ones, that need to be broken up. And again, don't break them up until the last minute, because as soon as they're broken, that can also cause them to go limp. So here we are. We've got a green salad ready for its dressing. Next thing I need to tell you, we've got the vinaigrette. I'm going to give that a good whisk, because all those lovely ingredients need to be very thoroughly combined the minute before you dress the salad. And I'm going to start off with just 1 tablespoon of the vinaigrette. That's going to go in. And then the next thing I have to tell you, that really the very best way to dress a salad is with your hands, because you can very quickly and swiftly just turn the leaves over to get the dressing onto them. In France, in the 18th century, they always asked the lady at the table with the prettiest hands to dress the salad. Didn't matter how ugly she was, if she had pretty hands, she was the one who was chosen. And what you're aiming for here is leaves that are beautifully glistening with dressing, but not too much. Too much dressing makes them soggy. And you might just, I think I'm just going to use a tiny bit more. So I'm going to whisk it again. Just use a tiny bit more here, about half a tablespoon this time, just to finish off. And have a final mix. And then the test of a good salad is this. You can take the salad like that, and there's no dressing in the bottom of the bowl. If you've got little pools of dressing, you've got too much in there. So that's what you're aiming for, just each leaf individually coated, and a lovely, crunchy green salad with a beautifully flavoured vinaigrette is one of the special things in life.
This is a truly beautiful combination of textures and flavours. Marinated roasted aubergines and tomatoes with feta cheese. First of all, take some plum tomatoes, skinned and halved, and roast them in the oven on a baking sheet, cut side up, for about 50 to 60 minutes until they're blackened around the edges. Meanwhile, char grill 2 medium aubergines, which have been sliced, salted and drained. Then place the aubergines in a bowl and pour over a marinade of olive oil, balsamic vinegar and basil leaves. Toss them around and leave them in a cool place until you're ready to serve on a bed of mixed salad leaves with the cooled tomatoes. Then add 7 ounces of feta cheese sliced in small strips, and finally finish off with some half-fat creme fraiche on each portion with a little bit of paprika sprinkled over.
Well, a green salad is usually a side salad, but now I want to show you a salad that you can serve as a main course for 6 or 8 people with lots of crusty bread and some nice chilled white wine. And this is called American chef salad. It's served all over America, and why it's called chef salad is because really you can put any ingredients you like in it. You can make up your own recipes. But the principles of it are that if you have something left over like cooked chicken or ham, you can make it into a chef's salad, a conglomerate as it were. Well, first of all I'm going to show you the dressing, which is quite different from the vinaigrette dressing. We start off in this jug here with 1/4 pint of soured cream. That's there, and now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. Now this could be the homemade, you know, the quick homemade mayonnaise we used earlier in the series making tartar sauce, or the mayonnaise I'm using today is a good quality bought mayonnaise. Then I've got a tablespoon of lemon juice. I'm just going to put all the ingredients in and then mix them later. I've got a crushed clove of garlic, but you can use more. If you want more, you can use two cloves of garlic. Then I'm going to use a teaspoonful, quite a heaped teaspoonful of grain mustard, and a tablespoon of good quality white wine vinegar. And then to follow that, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And then all that's going to need now is a really good seasoning of freshly milled pepper and salt. So we'll put that in next. And you can do a bit of tasting after you've mixed it and see if it needs any more seasoning. And the same little whisk we used for the vinaigrette, and just now go in and give that a really good whisking. Couldn't be simpler, but it makes a lovely creamy dressing that's quite different from vinaigrette dressing. So we'll just put that on one side. Now, one of the ingredients in the salad today is going to be avocado, and I thought it might be a good opportunity to just explain how to prepare it. First of all, when you're buying it, you shouldn't really go in with your thumb and press it because it'll bruise it. What you should do is pick the avocado up and just hold it in the palm of your hand, and if the whole thing gives under pressure, then you know it's ripe and ready. Slice it in half, take the sharp knife all the way round. The stone is in the middle and you can feel the stone, so go all the way around with the stone. Then if you give it a twist like that, it comes in half. Then you take out the stone and then just slice it first of all into quarters and then the quarters again, and then we're going to slice it up to put it in the salad, and the peel just peels off like that. Now if you're making a sauce with avocado, there's a lot of lovely green colour there, so you can scrape that off with a teaspoon. And I'm still one of those old-fashioned people that I actually just love eating that with vinaigrette dressing. I still like it. It's not fashionable now, you don't find it in restaurants, but it is extremely good. And what we've got for our salad today are, we'll start with avocado, 2 avocados that have been prepared like that and chopped into little bite-sized chunks or slices like that. So that's going to go in to the salad bowl, and the leaves I'm using are cos lettuce, round lettuce, watercress and rocket. Then I'm going to add this, which is 4 ounces of very thinly sliced raw mushrooms, and this, which is 6 ounces of streaky bacon. It's been grilled until it's really, really crisp and crunchy. And here I've got garlic sausage. Now, this is garlic sausage. You buy it in a piece like that, not sliced thinly, but in a piece. And then you cut it into little strips like this. So I've got 8 ounces of garlic sausage there. And then I'm going to put some cheese in, and this is beautiful, wonderful Roquefort cheese. And I've got 3 ounces, and I've just crumbled it with my fingers. It's not chopped, it's just crumpled into quite small pieces. Now I'm just going to give that a good shake, and the dressing's going to need another quick whisk. And then the way to dress it is to put, say, half the dressing on first, go in and mix, and then put the other half on later, because it's very important that everything is beautifully coated with this lovely creamy dressing. So that's our first go. And sometimes I use my hands, but I start off with a kitchen spoon. You know, salad servers are never big enough, so a good kitchen spoon and fork. And then just go in and start to mix. Just folding everything over, getting all those lovely little bits distributed amongst the leaves. You can see now it's beginning to get completely coated. And now we'll go in with the second lot. There we go, the final lot of dressing. And I'm going to get my rubber spatula here just to get the very last bits of dressing out, because it's so delicious. We don't want to lose any at all. And so just carry on. I think it needs about sort of 2 or 3 minutes, this mixing. And then take it to the table, and just before you do take it to the table, it has one final garnishing ingredient, and that is 4 spring onions, finely chopped, and they just make it look quite pretty as well. So don't forget, you can use any other kind of ingredient you want to, but that is American Chef salad.
This is a recipe for summer, a salad with broad beans. You need about 4 pounds of broad beans. This is pancetta, and like the bacon in the chef's salad, you need to cook it under a hot grill till crisp and crunchy, and then when it's cool, crumple it into small pieces. Now, simmer the beans in boiling water for about 5 minutes, drain them and place them in a serving bowl. While they're still warm, pour over a vinaigrette dressing made with sherry vinegar. Now add 2 finely chopped shallots, the pancetta pieces, and a tablespoon of mixed chopped herbs. Give all this a good mix and coat with the dressing, then cover with a cloth and leave it for a couple of hours for the beans to soak up all the lovely flavours.
Well, I've got time to show you just one more salad, and this one is very good for a first course for 6 people, or for a light lunch, maybe for 3 or 4. It's called white bean and tuna fish salad, and it's got a lemon pepper dressing. But first of all, I want to talk about the white beans. When you buy a tin of baked beans, they are haricot beans, and they're small and squat shaped. But these are rather special. These are Tuscan beans, and they are rather sort of elongated in shape, and they're called cannellini beans, and they have masses of flavour, very widely used in Tuscan cooking, where this recipe comes from. And what you do with the cannellini beans is you soak them overnight, then you drain off the water, put some more water in the pot, and boil them for about 1¼ hours until they're tender. And you can see here they're tender, but they still hold their shape. It's important not to overcook them. And let me explain the dressing while I'm going to put it on, and tell you also that you always put the dressing on while the beans are still warm, while they're freshly cooked and still a bit warm, because then the dressing penetrates. And I've given it a good whisk there, and as it goes in, I'll tell you what's in it. It's called lemon pepper dressing, and it has the grated zest of a lemon, a teaspoon of peppercorns, a heaped teaspoon, and the peppercorns have been crushed with a pestle and mortar, not from a pepper mill, so that you can see they've got sort of nice crunchy bits of pepper. And then we've got 3 tablespoons of oil, olive oil, Tuscan olive oil, 3 tablespoons of the oil drained from 2 tins of tuna fish, and 3 tablespoons of lemon. Just give that a good mix. It's quite a lot of dressing. You'll think that's quite a big amount, but the beans do tend to sort of soak it up. And then I'm going to add the contents of 2 tins of tuna fish, which has been drained, and we use the oil in the dressing. I'm going to give it another mix, and then in the salad bowl I'm going to put, first of all, a layer of rocket leaves. Now I've got an ounce of rocket leaves here, and I'm going to put 3/4 of them in the base of the bowl, and then I'm going to put the beans on top. You can see all that dressing has been soaked right up into the beans. Spread that out a bit, and then the next ingredient, which adds a bit of crunch and a lot of flavour, is this, which is 2 ounces of red onion, and the red onion has been thinly sliced and then separated into little rings like this. And then finally, I'm going to put the rest of the rocket on top, and just so that we can see what's in the salad, just press the rocket leaves down a little bit so that they sort of get tucked into the salad. And that will be very, very nice with something Italian to drink and lots of crusty bread. That is Tuscan bean and tuna fish salad.
Well, I've just got time to show you this spiced carnaroli rice salad. The rice is cooked with ground spices, with crunchy pine nuts and dried fruit. It has sort of Moroccan overtones. It's served with grilled red onions and is brilliant for a buffet or a lunch to go with cold cuts. This is a very special salad from Thailand. Slices of rare rump steak are combined with a spicy dressing, served with grapes and garnished with coriander, mint and toasted sesame seeds. It has a truly oriental flavour.
So, happy salad making, and next time we're going to have a close look at what's new in the dairy. Bye-bye.
This time, with the help of some special ingredients, we're going to be cooking fish, making desserts and doing some home baking.
Well, hello, and this week's programme has got a kind of a subtitle to it, which is What's New in the Dairy? Because over the long years that I've been cooking, I've seen a complete revolution take place in the dairy. Because when I first started, you had milk, soured cream if you were lucky, and double cream and single cream. Now, when you go to the dairy counter in a supermarket or the shelves, it just goes on for miles and miles, and you've got hundreds of different ingredients, hundreds of different yogurts. So I thought it might be nice in this programme to have a look at what's new. And I suppose the first ingredient that I would say has revolutionised my own cooking, I often get teased about it, is this one here, which is creme fraiche. That is quite simply the most beautiful dairy ingredient to come into our kitchens since I've been cooking. It comes from Normandy. The best creme fraiche comes from the Normandy area. And you can always see when it comes from Normandy by the sort of slightly greenish yellowy colour of the cream. With pasteurising, the heat treatment that you give cream, it loses some of its flavour. So the French decided they would get some of that flavour back after pasteurisation by adding a little bit of culture. And the results are this lovely thick dairy product which has less fat than double cream. It doesn't have all the fears attached to it with cooking of curdling. You can cook it and boil it and that's all right. And also its best virtue is that you can keep it in the refrigerator. It has a longer shelf life than double cream. The other wonderful thing about creme fraiche is you can buy it half fat, so you can have it full fat if you want it creamy and you're not watching your waistline or your diet, or you can have it half fat. Then there's another lovely ingredient, which is this one here, which has virtually no fat in it at all. So that's very good if you're on a diet. This one's called quark, and it's a skimmed milk soft cheese, and we used it, those of you who are with me on part 1, by making Slimmer's scrambled eggs. But it's also nice spread on biscuits, served as something, you know, where you want a spread but you don't want to have the fat, and it's got a nice sort of tang to it. This one over here is another important ingredient. This is fromage frais. Now this one is fermented skimmed milk, and you can buy it virtually fat-free, so again if you're trying to cut down on fat, that's a good one. But for the kitchen I prefer this one here, which has got 8% fat. It actually has 8% cream added back into it. It's still low fat compared with creme fraiche or cream, but it's got lovely dairy flavour. And one more thing, if you're on a diet, as I often am, what's good about this one, fromage frais, you can spread it on your toast and you kind of think you've got butter because you have got some dairy flavour there. Well, having talked about the virtues of low-fat products, I now want to point you to the most wicked one of all. And this one is a full-fat cream cheese. It's called mascarpone, and it has all the flavour of sort of clover meadows. It's really a beautiful dairy ingredient, but it does have a lot of fat. So if you're not on a diet and you're very thin, then that would be lovely to just spoon onto fruit or other things. If you are watching your weight or you have got to eat a low-fat diet, then one of the nice things about mascarpone is it combines very well with fromage frais. So you could have half mascarpone, half fromage frais, and you get the flavour of the full-fat cheese, but without all the full fat. So that's 4 new products that are in the dairy. I'm going to talk about others later on, but first of all I want to show you a recipe using my star creme fraiche. And the recipe is one of the most delicious supper dishes for 2 people you're ever going to come across, and it's also extremely quick. And the main ingredient is this, which is smoked haddock, but these are called golden fillets because they're small haddocks that have been skinned and filleted. And I'm going to put 2 of these in the frying pan. They weigh about 7 ounces each. And in the frying pan following that, I'm going to put some freshly milled pepper, but no salt because there is some salt in the curing. And here I've got 1/4 pint of milk, and the milk is going to go in with the fish, and then it's all going to come up to simmering point. And once it comes up to simmering point, what's going to happen is the fish is going to poach in the milk. Now, you can make this with thick pieces of smoked haddock if you want to, in which case they would take about 12 minutes to poach. But with these tiny little golden fillets, it's only going to take about 8 minutes or so. Now the fish has just about had 8 minutes, so I'm going to take it out, and you can see how it sort of turns paler and looks more opaque when it's cooked. So what you do is remove the pieces of fish to a plate to sit on the side for a moment whilst you make the sauce. And what I'm going to do now is turn my heat right up to high, and with the milk that's left in the pan that's got all that lovely smoked haddock flavour in it, I'm going to combine this, which is 2 tablespoons of full-fat creme fraiche. This is going to be a special recipe, this one. You can use half-fat if you want to, but I think we're going to go the whole hog today. And so just let the creme fraiche melt, and then bring the whole lot to simmering point, and let it simmer for about 2 minutes, and it'll reduce and become thick. And then the next ingredient I've got here is just half an ounce of butter, not too much, just half an ounce, but the flavour of cream and butter and smoked fish is just too good to miss. And I'm going to just let the butter melt into the sauce, and then when it's done that, I'm going to return the fish to the pan, and one more ingredient goes in. We'll return the fish, like that, into the lovely creamy sauce. One more ingredient, and that's a tablespoon of fresh snipped chives. And they just go all the way over the fish like that. And then the nicest way to serve that is on a plate of well-drained, lightly cooked spinach. And you've got the quickest meal. It takes 15 minutes from start to finish for 2 people, and the nicest meal you could possibly have.
Creme fraiche combined with pepper makes a lovely sauce for entrecôte steak. But you begin this recipe with some supermarket beef stock, which you melt down in the pan and reduce it until it's half its original volume. Then clean the pan and add some butter and oil, and when they're really, really hot, add the steaks. Brown the steaks well on both sides, then add 2 tablespoons of cognac and let it splutter and reduce a bit in the pan before adding the reduced stock. Then add 2 heaped tablespoons of creme fraiche, and finally 2 teaspoons of coarsely crushed black peppercorns. Now let this all bubble and amalgamate for about 1 minute, and then serve the steaks on warm plates with the sauce spooned over.
Now, modern cooks are so lucky in the kitchen because I want to introduce you to another really brilliant ingredient for cooking, and that is none other than Greek yogurt. When you're buying Greek yogurt, get the real thing. Don't get Greek style yogurt. The real thing is much, much better. It's creamy, it's luscious, and it's thick. This one here has got the whole milk content in it, but again, if you're watching your fat, you can actually get a Greek yogurt with 0% fat. The fat's been taken off, and I just want you to see the texture of that, because that is also quite thick and creamy too, and it's wonderful for people who are watching the fat content of their diet. Now, what I'm going to show you with Greek yogurt today is it's a wonderful ingredient for making an old-fashioned English rhubarb fool with a lighter touch. And you start off with rhubarb. I've got 1 1/4 pounds of rhubarb here. And I want to show you how to cook rhubarb properly. First of all, you wash the stalks and trim them, and then you cut them into good chunks like this, not too small. It's very important that the chunks are quite big. And if you cook the rhubarb in the oven with no liquid in it whatsoever, then you will find that the rhubarb will stay whole. It will stay in little chunks. It won't smash to pieces. And what we're going to do is add sugar to it. And I've got 3 ounces of sugar here. If you're making it sort of really early, when you have the first forced rhubarb, then you could get away with 2 1/2 ounces. But later on in the summer, it gets a bit sharper, so I would say you need 3 ounces. And you just put the sugar in with the rhubarb, and then it has the most incredible affinity with 2 things. One is orange and one is ginger. And I'm going to flavour it with ginger today. And you remember we used ginger earlier on in the series, fresh root ginger. Well, this can be peeled into little bulbs like this and then preserved in syrup. And it comes in jars like this, and you can keep it in your store cupboard. And this is what I'm going to use today, both fresh and preserved ginger. And the fresh ginger is a teaspoonful, which has been peeled and chopped, and that's going to go in amongst the rhubarb. And then the preserved ginger is going to be used a little later on. Now that goes into a medium oven, 350 degrees, and it'll take 40 minutes to cook. No liquid needed, don't forget. All the juice in the rhubarb will just come out, and I've got it here next to me. This is what it looks like. So if you just want to serve plain rhubarb compote, just cook it like that, and you'll see that it retains its shape. Now for our fool, what you need to do with this is drain off the juice, and then you put it into a food processor and whip it up to a puree, in which case it will look like this, and you add 2 tablespoons of the juice while you're whizzing it up to get a puree that's kind of that consistency and a lovely colour. Then, what I've got in my bowl here is 200 grams of Greek yoghurt, and I'm now going to add half the rhubarb to the yoghurt and just fold that in, and immediately you get this lovely sort of marbled look. But we don't want the marbled look. We're going to go on and on, folding until the yoghurt and the rhubarb are perfectly combined. And what's good about making rhubarb fool with Greek yoghurt instead of double cream is because the yoghurt has a bit of sharpness, it makes the whole thing taste really, really fresh and really, really summery. Now once you've combined the yoghurt and the rhubarb puree, you then need to put it into serving dishes. And I've got some little glasses here. This amount, the recipe I've given you, will serve 4. And these are called Manhattan cocktail glasses, and they're very good for serving desserts like this. What you do is put the fool in the bottom and then the rest of the puree on the top, so that when you eat it, you're sort of putting your spoon into the rhubarb puree and then getting the fool from underneath. And then the little pieces of stem ginger have been cut into little shreds, and I'm just going to put a few little shreds on top like that as a garnish. And then that will go into the refrigerator, each one covered with cling film. And I think that's very nice if it's served well chilled. Now I'd like to show you a couple of other very fast Greek yoghurt desserts. We've got, first of all, full-fat Greek yoghurt sprinkled with frozen pistachio nuts and drizzled with Greek honey. And next to that I've got toffee fudge bananas. Chopped bananas in Greek yoghurt sprinkled with dark molasses sugar, which turns into pools of toffee sauce overnight. And then we've topped them with toasted nuts.
This is a lovely low-fat dessert made with fromage frais. You need some gelatin to start off with, either powdered or leaves, but I prefer to use the leaves, which you soak in water for about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, mix 3 ounces of golden caster sugar with 5 fluid ounces of semi-skimmed milk and heat until the sugar is dissolved. Now squeeze the gelatin to remove the excess water and add it to the milk, then whisk very thoroughly and leave it to cool. Now add either vanilla extract or the seeds from a vanilla pod to 800 grams of fromage frais. Then add the milk mixture and mix really well. Divide the mixture between individual pudding basins, cover with cling film and chill. When they're chilled, ease them away from the sides with your little finger and then turn them onto plates and serve them with either red fruit compote made with plums, cherries, strawberries and raspberries, or any kind of fruit compote.
Well, one of the greatest classic dairy desserts of all times must surely be creme caramel. And we're going to start making our creme caramel today with how to make a caramel. And there are lots of little tips and rules that belong to the making of caramel. First of all, you need a really good little saucepan, and this, just like you need a good omelette pan to make a good omelette, you need a good saucepan to make sauces. This is one that is really, really good. It's made from heavy gauge aluminium, quite a humble little saucepan, but really, really does the job. Then you need 6 ounces of caster sugar, and you turn your heat to medium. Now I've got the heat already turned at medium, so the saucepan is quite warm. And I'm going to put the 6 ounces of caster sugar in. And what we want to happen now is for the sugar crystals to dissolve. And this is going to take quite a time. In fact, to make a caramel altogether takes about 10 minutes. And you need to have a bit of patience here, because I think where people go wrong is they don't want to wait 10 minutes, turn the heat up too high, and then it all gets burnt and sticky and nasty. And then after approximately 5 minutes, what you'll find is the sugar begins to melt, and then you can